I love a good villain. Over the course of history, since humans started sharing stories and mythos, villains has been present as a sort of barrier or obstacle for our heroes to overcome, serving as a metaphor for us to take inspiration from these stories and defeat our demons in the real world. However, if you're like me, sometimes when you're consuming any piece of media with a good villain in it, instead of hoping for the hero to triumph, you look at the villain and think, you know what? I get it. So what makes a good villain? I think it's a matter of taste, but in my opinion, it depends on what they represent on the story and how they affect the world around our heroes. That's why today's subject, Enver Gortash, is my favorite character on Baldur's Gate 3. On paper. Let me explain. Also, spoilers for the whole game, I think.
Well, duh.
But before we go any further, be welcome, this is the Roll Crow. And on this channel we explore the life of my favorite characters from my favorite RPGs. If this sounds interesting to you, consider subscribing. Of course, thank you for watching. By the end of Act 2, we meet the three heads of the Absolute, the three chosen: Ketheric Thorm, the immortal undead fallen general, Orion the Red, shapeshifter, mass murderer monster, and Enver Gortash. Just some guy. And that's what I like about him. You see, while the first two might sound more imposing at first, Gortash represents my favorite villain archetype, the charming, charismatic villain.
Hello?
The type of evil that you most commonly encounter in the real world, because you might not know a bloodthirsty general or a serial killer. At least I hope not, but I guarantee at least once you have encountered a narcissistic manipulator. The type of guy that seems normal, smiles to your face. However, the first chance he gets, he'll throw you under the bus for personal gain. The type of guy that you might think you hate. However, after you meet him, you go out of the room with a smile on your face. So, let's explore the life of Enver Gortash and see what makes him the way he is and why I think his potential is wasted. Enver Gortash was born to a humble family of cobblers. Since very young, he shows signs of being a child prodigy. He was always tinkering and building little machines and artifacts. He was overall a very clever child. His parents, however, were not in a good financial situation, so when a warlock offered to buy the young Gortash and take him as his apprentice, the parents took the opportunity without a second thought.
We had debts, world-ending debts, trying to keep this cursed shop afloat. Dangerous lenders who said they'd bury us all if we didn't pay. Then a warlock offered us a pretty penny for Enver's service. He was a smart boy. Too smart. It was give him up, and all of us live, or refuse and die. What choice did we have?
I mean, if you ask me, this is just cope for them to live with the fact that they literally sold a child into slavery, but whatever. It is not clear if the warlock was the devil Raphael himself, or somebody working for him. Either way, Enver Gortash eventually found himself being a prisoner in the House of Hope, Raphael's home in the Hells.
We had one house guest by the name of Gortash. A mischievous little blot of a boy, and he slipped through my fingers. Lord, indeed. I used to bruise my knuckles on his whimpering little face. I'd like to have snapped his neck.
So this is where our man spent his formative years, on literal hell. I'll assume here is where he learned how to be a master manipulator. He was alone in the world, and since no one was coming to rescue him, he had to pull the strings himself to survive. Eventually, due to his charm and cleverness, he was able to forge a plan to cheat the jailer and escape the House of Hope, making it back to Faerun with a hellish education on evil and ambition so grand to rival whoever standing in his way. His first step was to start a black market operation as a weapons dealer, and through cunning and bribes, he was able to supplant the Knights of the Shield and the Shantarim's position in the arms deal. Here is also where our girl Karlach enters the stage. Gortash hired her as a bodyguard. We can see the signs of the narcissistic manipulator, while him meant a lot to her. He just thought of Karlach as a piece on the board, something to use for personal gain and discard when necessary. It is not clear what Gortash got out of the deal with Zariel, but I believe it was supplies of infernal iron that he would use to construct his weapons. Either way, slowly but surely, his influence grew, and he expanded his business on the black market, eventually gaining influence on the upper class of Baldur's Gate, taking position as a strategic advisor for the elites at the gate. However, his advice was often rejected, and was often disregarded as worthless by the most prominent figures like Duke Alder Ravengard. This should be the end of the road for a normal person, but not for a man like Gortash. And you can help but admire the guy a little. He rised from being sold to slavery in hell to the upper classes of Baldur's Gate, and all through his own cunning and charm. So you can understand how a man like that develops this sort of narcissism, where he alone can dictate the fate of the world. He reminds me of one of my favorite villains from fiction, Vilgefortz, from the Witcher series. If at least one person sees that parallel, I'll be satisfied. Anyways. Eventually the opportunity will present itself for him to keep rising, and it was an offer made by the god of tyranny himself, Bane. Bane will start showing visions to Enver, telling him to seek the Chosen of Baal, the character known to us as the Dark Urge, and the Chosen of Myrkul, the undead general Ketheric Thorm, to form an alliance with them, as well as showing him an elite colony residing below Baldur's Gate on the Underdark. And the most important part, an Elder Brain, an extremely powerful creature. So Gortash will start doing his homework, and along with the Dark Urge, will formulate a plan to actually be able to take control of the Elder Brain and create the Cult of the Absolute. This shows us that, as narcissistic and brilliant as Gortash is, he does not mind forming alliances and being equal with other people in order to achieve his goals, or at least until they are no longer of use. They learned about an extremely powerful item, the Crown of Crassus, that was being held on the vaults of the Archdevil Mephistopheles in the Hells, as well as a book detailing the process to restore the Grand Elite Empire. So with the help of Helsing, a worshipper of Mammon, they will open a portal to Mephistar, the seat of Mephistopheles' reign in the Hells, and may way to the Archdevil personal vault. They will be able to breach it and steal the items they were looking for. Now, this feat alone is impressive. Being able to steal from the personal vault of one of the most powerful beings in this universe without any sort of repercussion is, well, let's just say,
That is badass!
So they will start using the elite grand design to their own ends. They will travel to the Underdark and take control of the Elder Brain with the Crown of Crassus, and Gortash will start experimenting with tadpoles on unsuspecting civilians.
She whispers in my mind. She sings. Praise the Absolute. We are his pets. His plan, Lord Gortash.
You see, here we can observe Gortash's true cruelty. When you encounter Ketheric Thorm and are in the red, their evil is palpable, is predictable. However, Gortash comes to you with a smile on his face and offering his hand of friendship. Meanwhile, he will destroy you from the inside, using you and infecting your head, and you will thank him for it, man. If that's not a metaphor for real-world evil, I don't know what is. Regardless, Gortash and his allies were ready to set their plan in motion, and the first victims of his new experiments will be the first people that betray him, his own parents.
Help me! Gods help me! Enver's ruined my mind, he's taken my body! I should have slammed the door in his face, but I let him in and he rammed some kind of worm in our eyes. I'm here, but I can't speak, I can't act, I'm trapped. He said he wanted to make us powerless.
And now it was time to put their plan in motion and take control of the gate. Gortash, along with his allies, will form a plan to destabilize the authorities at Baldur's Gate and sow fear and panic on his citizens. After all, there is no better opportunity for a tyrant to rise than a population driven by fear and looking for a solution.
To exert control, you must first sow chaos. A tyrant's strategy as father would say.
First, the Dark Urge, along with his cult of Baal, will begin a series of ritualistic murders of key figures in the city to create instability on the region. At some point in all of this, Orin the Red will betray the Dark Urge character and take control of the cult of Baal and his position at the head of the Absolute. Ketheric Thorm will amass an army in the Shadowlands, serving as a main force for the Absolute and with the intention of invading Baldur's Gate, while Gortash took all this chaos and presented a solution for the problem he and his allies initiated, gaining more power and influence on the city. However, they knew first they needed to get rid of some political figures to take full control of the city. Gortash will discover who was behind the political machinations of Duke Stelmane and the Knights of the Shield, the mind flayer known to us as the Emperor. Gortash will capture the Illithid, interrogate him, and force him to join back with the Elder Brain, making him lose his free will. Now he only needed to neutralize the Flaming Fist, and the Cult of the Absolute will take the opportunity to kidnap Duke Ravengard when he was vulnerable, after returning to Faerun and escaping the city of Elturel. Gortash will use this opportunity to fill the City Watch with his new creations, the Steel Watch. This is where I believe his deal with Zariel for Karlach came into fruition, since he needed a lot of infernal iron to create these machines. He will enslave the gnomes known as the Gondians and force them to construct his massive golems that will serve as Gortash's main force, as well as the city new protectors, patrolling the streets next to the Flaming Fist, holding Gortash's iron grip on the city. The Gondian gnomes will be blinded, so they could not reveal the secrets of the Steel Watch to anyone, as well as implanted with explosive colors, and their families will be imprisoned in the massive underwater prison known as the Iron Throne. The Tyrant punishments truly are the definition of a fate worse than death. As any good villain, the trauma suffered by him in his formative years will be internalized and inflicted on the world around him. Regardless, he was now in full control of the city. The people of the Gate, in fear of the coming threat of the Absolute, traded their freedom for the security offered by Gortash as the hero that would save the city.
Hail, Lord Gortash!
Gortash just wants to make sure you
The truth is the truth. We trust our readers to make up their own minds.
He would reunite with his allies below the Shadowlands to infect Older Ravengard with a tadpole and put in motion the next step of their plan. The brainwashed Duke will name Gortash Archduke. So Enver Gortash rose from a lowly poor family and being a slave on the House of Hope to the greatest accomplishment one can achieve in Baldur's Gate, all thanks to his cunning and intelligence. However, his biggest accomplishment, in my opinion, is he's the only character that figured out how to be an artificer. Hell, not even us can pick that class. Thanks, Larian. But in all seriousness, you might be wondering, but Rockcrow, you have been praising this guy during the whole video. Where is the wasted potential? As you describe him, this might be the greatest character of all time. Well, you see, all that we have seen on this video is the stuff happening on the background, the setting that Larian set it up for us to discover and eventually confront Enver Gortash. However, it's his in-game implementation where his wasted potential truly shows for me. First of all, is his character design. I do understand that the tone of the game and D&D in general is a bit over the top. However, did you really need to make my man look like the main singer of an emo rock band? Plus, he's supposed to be a young, handsome man, and I know beauty is on the eye of the beholder, but my man looks like he's either 20 or 50 years old. All of this matters because, in theory, this guy should be a cunning political mastermind, the type of person that you see and can't really figure out what his goals are, or if you can really trust him, a man full of intrigue. This will make the alliance that he offers you at the beginning of Act 3 way more believable, as maybe you will be more inclined to believe that the dude is doing all of this as some sort of greater good. However, the first thing that goes through your mind is, this edgelord will definitely betray me. However, the main thing for me on why Gortash's character drops so bad in-game opposite to in lore has more to do with how the game ends and who or what ends up being our final antagonist.
By eliminating Ketheric, Orin, and Gortash, you have simply unbound me. exactly as I intended. I needed the crown to build an army. I needed the Chosen to bring it to me. They would not have surrendered it freely, so I gave them what they wanted. Power. And you had your role to play too. Who do you think told the Chosen about the astral prism? Who do you think planted the knowledge of Orpheus's power and the fear of what it could do? When the Chosen sent my thralls to retrieve the prism, who do you think let the Emperor slip its leash, knowing it would be the one to bring you to me?
Remember when you were making out with your first girlfriend, and you came right as she touched your leg? It was me, Barry. I jerked you off at super speed so it'd seem like you nutted at just a woman's touch!
At the end, it's revealed to us that the Elder Brain was actually in control this whole time, and thanks to our actions and the Crown of Crassus, it's able to evolve into another brain, take control of the absolute forces, and begin the grand design. This, in my opinion, really makes all the background history and character building for Gortash feel almost completely pointless. Because based on what we've seen today, Gortash was supposed to be the genius who put all of the absolute plot in motion. He rose from nothing to take full control of Baldur's Gate, and when we arrive at the city, we will have to undo all the damage that he has done to the gate, having all authorities in the city stacked against us. So we slowly but surely gather our allies and dismantle the tyrant's iron grip on the citizens to get a final confrontation with the man. But instead, we learned that the Elder Brain was technically always in control and pretty much just guiding the Chosen to do what the Brain wanted. As it is, the Chosen got fully revealed and introduced into the game quite late, by the end of Act 2, so adding this plot to the story really takes a lot of screen time that could have been given to develop Gortash and Orin as a more imposing presence and give them more character development. Instead, they get replaced for a shallow final enemy with far less interesting motivations. Wouldn't it be better if, for example, you get to the city and still you have to choose which one of the Chosen you will have to kill first, and after you kill one of them, that's when the Brain starts to get loose. At least that way, Gortash goes from a mere pawn in the Brain's game to an incredible ambitious character that rose so high that he got too close to the sun and eventually got burned. And in the end, you climb up to the top of the Brain, and what is there to greet you but an enslaved, mind-controlled Gortash, having been done to him what he did to so many innocent people. Overall, that's just an idea, and I'm not saying that Larian did a bad job with the ending. Far from it. I know you have to take into consideration all the different choices that you make on your adventure and all the possible endings to actually come up with an idea that makes sense. And in the end, Baldur's Gate 3 is definitely about the amazing journey and not the destination. However, I do think a lot of players agree that Act 3 does feel a bit rushed, and the character of Gortash suffers a lot from it. While Ketheric Thorm had all of Act 2 to build his presence as an imposing villain, Gortash had to share screen with 2 more villains on Act 3, plus the resolution of all of our companions' questline, and overall making me feel like he had so much wasted potential. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you made it to the end, please make an offering to the eldritch monstrosity known as the YouTube algorithm by liking and subscribing. But besides that, what are your thoughts on Gortash? Do you think he's fine the way he is, or is he missing something? Either way, I'd love to read your thoughts on the matter, and please have a wonderful rest of your day.